Greetings. Have you ever wanted to meet someone who has anything you ask them to them? They say, "Yeah, I done that already." I say, "Come on, how many things you have done in your life?" He say, "Yeah, just tell me. I've been done that." And he is so true, serious entrepreneurs, many times successful and many more times failure. You know why failure gives us the lesson? That's why, as you know, I have been begging this man, our mutual guest today, to come and teach us. There is so much to learn. However, based on all the skills and all the experiences, especially with international travel and working with international people, international company, and he is very well connected inside the White House alone. Okay, that's a hint. At the same time, because when they're like a Chinese object, probably Chinese object syndrome, he's probably a master on those things, because that's why I keep moving around topic to the topic, to the industry to the industry. However, there's a one person in his life who is keeping him in check. I did not get the permission to say that one, and who is his boss 24/7. How you can work with someone being your wife and working together. We are going to ask that, like how to working with a loved one, especially keeping the balance personal life and work life, and not talking about 24/7 work, and probably something else which you don't know how the conversation will go. So I want you to set aside everything right now, because it's a rare moment to have someone who is expert on many things. I will say, master of all. Even though people say that you're not a master of many things, however, when you work with so long, you probably become a master in a thing or two, and there's so much to learn. In case you don't know me, my name is Mohammed Siddique. I'm the host of a growth hacking show and the co-author of New Success Secrets, available on Amazon. Please join me to give a very warm welcome to Dave Bernard, and he is a co-founder of, I would say, many companies. Any company I mention, he will say, no, that not, you should have mentioned that, because there are so many on his LinkedIn profile. I'm going to show even his LinkedIn profile is not providing him a justice. Why? Because he did not want to put everything over there. That's how much he has done. So Dave, very welcome.
Thank you very much, Mohammed. I'm so happy to be here.
Yeah. Dave, let me start with this. Where were you? What happened? Who you were surrounded with that gets you this serial entrepreneur bug somewhere here? I don't know. Somewhere is here,
Yeah, my hair used to be all black, by the way.
Okay.
But 15 years ago, I'd already had a 25-year software career in multiple industries. I came to Atlanta, went to Georgia Tech. I studied in computer science. And then I went into several different companies at different levels. And I even survived the dot-bomb era back in 2000. And after that, right after that point, I was kind of handed a serendipitous opportunity to go out on my own as a contractor. And I just grabbed it. I really hadn't planned on doing that in any way, shape, or form, but it was presented to me, and I said, okay, I'm happy to do that as long as I can work at home. You pay me by the hour. And that's kind of how it all got started about 15, 16 years ago. And that quickly grew into too much work, actually, and I began hiring some offshore friends in Eastern Europe to help. Over that 25 years, I'd been to a lot of computer conferences and had spoken at some, and I had a pretty large Rolodex of people that I knew from around the world who did really good work. From there, as I got the business going, I really just started networking very heavily. I paid it forward a lot with people, helping others out, answering questions, helping them with work. And I took some risks too during that time. And before we knew it, my wife and I were, running a couple of companies, and we seem to always be in the process of starting a new company. And she's been real integral in that process of getting new ones up and running at the moment. At the same time, we've had to shut down some things. We've made some bad investments. We've taken some risks that didn't work out. So really I would say part of my story that's very, very important is continuing to have to reinvent ourselves and have fun doing it at the same time.
Wonderful. You know what? I rather probably ask you more questions about your wife, how you can get along with each other, that one, because that's another topic, by the way. However, I want to get.
Yeah, I would say, I think one of the very secrets to it is that we have a division of labor. It's very, very complementary what we do. She does things that I don't want to do, and I do things that she doesn't want to do. And we meet in the middle. And I also think that the other great foundation of our relationship is that we're both hard workers, and we both take risks, but we take risks in different ways. She's much more grounded, practical about things, and structured in her ways, and I'm really quite different than that. My job is really kind of be the visionary to think of where we got to be in a year or two, and we got to get started now. Some people have told me I have a bias for action. I don't like sitting around and just thinking about things and chatting about it. I want to get things done.
Yeah.
And my wife is usually there to say, okay, hold on a second. Did you think through this, and this? Do we have all the paperwork right? Do we have all the legal aspects of it taken care of? And have you, are we going to have adequate cash flow? And when's that going to be there? So she's really there to keep that whole back office side in place. So it increases our chances of success quite a bit. In general, I would say I don't see how you can be in business by yourself, really. I think you have to have some kind of partner. And I'm just really, really blessed and fortunate to have my wife as my business partner as well.
That leads to my follow-up question on this one. You probably want to get out of that zone. I'm not getting you out. How you handle the conflict when it happens, that's very important of wherever you're working, there's always something, some kind of.
Well, yeah, it's a good question. There has been conflict, and we've raised a family during this time as well. I think one of the things is that we stay in constant communication about things, and we're very open with each other about what's going on. To the point we don't share every little thing, because I don't want to hear all the details about the back office, and she doesn't want to hear all the details about this last software program we built. So it's not like everything gets thrown out there, but I've learned over the years through trial and error when to approach her about what ideas and what to present her with. She really is that kind of sounding board. I have to have my ducks in a row before I even go talk to her.
Yeah,
you have to have that, or else it'll get shot down. So that's been very good for me. I have to do more detailed legwork up front, and I tend to get it right more often because of that.
Yeah, that's good. So that tells me that she is the boss, not you.
Definitely. There's a saying in China: "Happy wife, happy life," and I think that's a very, very prescient thing.
It's good to credit the China. However, I think it's true everywhere.
A lot of wisdom there.
Yeah, lots of wisdom there. And probably it's good when she controls the checkbook too. And that's probably answer yes. Is that right?
Yes, and she's very good at that. Her background's in finance, as a CPA and MBA, and she's got a long history as a chief financial officer in various companies. So I'm really fortunate to have somebody with that kind of level of skill and knowledge.
Yeah.
So we run, in many cases, in many respects, we run our small companies like big companies.
Absolutely.
Paperwork and back office standpoint.
So Dave, let's get deep dive into the real content where now we know how you run. Thank you so much for sharing that. I know it's sometimes personal, so Dave, based on your experience of all the ups and downs, what are the top 3 missteps to avoid to grow your business?
I think, one big misstep I think you can make is surrounding yourself with people who just tell you your ideas are great all the time. You can easily get sucked into that. And I think that one thing that I mentor entrepreneurs, especially startup entrepreneurs, about is that you don't know whether your stuff's any good until somebody writes you a check. Until they've written you a check, you really can't trust what you're getting, what you're hearing. And I think that in the early parts of our entrepreneurship, we fell into that trap. That the kind of the corollary to that is don't fall in love with your own ideas. Make sure you vet them with wise counselors around you. So you need a network. You need to be out there talking to people and throwing your ideas on the table and getting others' input into them. It doesn't mean they're always going to be right, but you need to get all kinds of input on that. I think no one can do this by themselves. I would say the other thing is to, when you're creating something, don't fit yourself into an overly rigid and narrow business plan. Every single new business is going to pivot. Every business pivots. You look at Twitter, it's a well-known, very successful company. That was like their 13th idea. I mean, they failed like 12 times before they got to Twitter. Angry Birds is a lot more. I've heard 50 on that. So there's no one out there who's not pivoted to become successful. So you have to be open-minded at the same time as having well-defined kind of guardrails about where you're going. And that's a really tough balancing act. It's very easy to get outside the guardrails on that. So that's why having lots of people around you kind of helping you and pointing things out and bringing new ideas to you and say, that's going to be really good, but since you're in that marketplace, if you pivoted just a little bit this direction, you get a lot more customers quicker. And you have to be open to that. It's hard.
One more.
So I would also say, just as kind of a more tactical thing, is a lot of people overthink what they're going to create or what they're going to provide as a service or a product out there. Again, you need to get some minimum viable product into the hands of pilots as quick as possible and then iterate. You cannot over create something, and your customers will tell you when you've got something built that's right. But get the minimum stuff out there as fast as you can. And I'll just add one bonus idea here is that don't spend all your time looking for money. Very, very few people raise money. I mean, it's a tiny percentage. Everyone bootstraps. And, that's what I really think you have to plan on that. And that's actually a much better way to go eventually. The less money you have, the more creative you are, period.
Wonderful. Less money you have, more creative you are. That's almost like a controversial, because mostly entrepreneurs are looking for money.
Yeah. You can lose your company just looking for money. Absolutely. I've seen it, and I continue to see it.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you. That's a very valuable wisdom. Thank you so much for this. And now we learned something, 3+1 missteps to avoid. Now, what are the top 3 success secrets to grow your business based on your experience of working on building so many?
A lot of it is just paying attention to certain details. Get the right paperwork in place from the beginning. Make sure your contracts are very good. Any kind of, agreements, negotiations are in writing. If it's not in writing, it doesn't exist. That's a really good rule of thumb. Also, when I'm negotiating or working or starting the negotiating process, I make sure I define in my own mind a walk-away position. There's going to be a line that I will not cross. I'm not going to be desperate. I don't want to ever be in a position where I'm so desperate I got to take whatever the other side's giving me. And I just won't do that. And I've had several experiences where we got everything agreed to, and as soon as the lawyers got to it, they just demolished the contract. And I said, we're not going to do this because they're killing everything we've already agreed to. So there's no way that I'm going to agree to what they're saying to do. And a lot of that comes from just, being a partner means it's an equal relationship, and I really try to work on avoiding unequal relationships. That's a very, very big hole you can fall into, I would say. So, it's kind of the mundane stuff that can really trip you up.
Cool. Any bonus? You want to give a success secret bonus?
Well, I would say if you really want to be successful, you got to go solve people's problems. If what you've done is create something that's what we call a solution looking for a problem, you're just not going to get there. You can't build it and they will come. That's just not how this works. Yeah. You've got to go out there and find problems and to go solve them. And I'll give you a hint as a good rule of thumb for this. And I give a lot of talks of different kind of technologies around the country, and I always open my talks with the very same statement, and that is that convenience trumps everything. Nothing trumps convenience. Convenience, it trumps safety, it trumps cost, it trumps everything. And if you can provide something that makes something more convenient for a group of people, now you're onto something, because then you are solving a problem. A lot of people think the world is very inconvenient. And if you can look at this, just look at payment types. You know, we've started with bartering, and then we traded, pieces of rocks and shiny objects. And then we had money, and then that led to check writing, and then we had credit cards, and now we have one-touch payments and online payments. It's all been a sequence of making something more convenient, and everyone's made money at every one of those steps. Look at a bottle of water. A bottle of water costs 2,000 times more than it is to get the same amount of water out of your tap. But people do this millions of times a day because it is a lot more convenient. We drive cars, which is the most dangerous thing we do on a regular basis, statistically, and yet no one can imagine living without them because it gets us from point A to point B in a much more convenient way. So to me, I would look for things that make people's lives or things in their lives more convenient. That's a great place to start with products and services.
Very, very valid, very valid. Thank you so much. So it looks like, you know what, we learned a lot already. However, I am not going to stop here because, I've been told I'm a good host. I ask a good question, and my guests like you are giving me more than I am asking. Why we should stop right here,
I'm happy to keep going.
No, thank you, Dave. I really appreciate the opportunity for this. And Dave, in business, you've done so many of them, and sometimes is up and sometimes roller coaster, up and down. So once you are down, what keeps you going at that time?
Well, I think part of the down is knowing they're going to come, and you can prepare for that. So it's kind of like investing, and we do some investing. We invest in our own deals. We invest in other deals on occasion. My wife and I do this together. And, one rule of thumb is we don't invest what we can't lose. So that's a good rule of thumb. So even when we're going out on a limb and starting a new company, we don't risk more than we can, comfortably lose. And otherwise, it's irresponsible in my mind. If you have a family and you really trying to balance your work life, a lot of people will just go to the ends of the earth to try to make something a success without realizing, hey, sometimes it's just time to stop. They'll mortgage their house, all their credit cards, they'll borrow money from their family members, and then that creates bigger problems down the road, because being an entrepreneur and starting new companies is very, very risky stuff. It's got a terrible track record out there. But you can do it in a way where you can minimize your risk, and if it goes south, which a lot of them do, then you're there and you're resourced to be able to survive and keep going and do it again. So a lot of it is it's not that I'm some wise person who has some successes and some failures. My failures are kind of calculated risks, as are my successes, and things change. So in some of our cases, we probably stayed with the company longer than we should have. We should have made the decision to pull back sooner. I'm a little better at that now than I was before. So I think that the failures are more instructive than the successes. It's very easy to get comfortable with your success. And I say, if you're an entrepreneur, if you're too comfortable, then you're not trying hard enough. It's an uncomfortable business, and you have to have a stomach for it, I think, to keep going and know when to change and when to stop and when to keep going. That's something you have to have your finger on the pulse constantly. Does that answer your question?
Amazing advice. Amazing advice. Dave, you mentioned that you get along with people internationally, travel all around the world, and you know a lot of people in your circle, because there's no way to start so many things until you meet a lot of people, because that's the only way you identify the, challenges, what's happening in the marketplace. So here is my question. Give us some very kind of your success secret tips for power networking in that case, so that we know that we don't end up in losing time with the meeting with the wrong people, which is not going to get anywhere, because many times we go networking events, we are sitting with somebody for 2 hours, you don't know, it's not going anywhere, you'll end up losing all the time. So give us some power networking tips because entrepreneur networking is everything.
Right. And I've been through that for years now, and I'm a different networker now than I was 15 years ago. I think 15 years ago, I went out and sampled a lot of different kinds of networking events and joined groups and things like that. And I've constantly tuned that over the years. But essentially where I'm at now is that when I go to a networking event, I don't try to meet everyone there. I do try to prepare ahead of time to know who's going to be there. And if there's certain targets that I have there, I'm going to go and research it ahead of time and make sure I know about this person and go spend some time with them. You know, I had the opportunity to do that a few years ago. I was at an event in Washington, D.C., where I got to meet the Secretary of Homeland Security, Jay Johnson. And I've met several of the cabinet members over the years of various administrations, some of my other pro bono work that I do. And I knew I had heard about Jay. He's a very interesting guy. He had spent some time in Atlanta. In fact, he was a Morehouse grad. I knew Morehouse College pretty well because I'd worked with them before. So when I went up to talk to him, we talked about Morehouse. We didn't talk about the normal stuff that somebody who comes up to Jay to talk about, like Homeland Security and national security issues and things like that. I got a chance to connect with him on a personal level. And I think that these kind of things is what really where I've been most successful, is finding connectivity with the people that I want to meet and also offering them some value in return. You know, how can I help? You know, that's one of the questions you can ask of people that you meet. How can I help you be better? And that's kind of a paying it forward attitude, and it's worked for me. But the other thing I would say is you got to get out there. You can't just do this over email and social media and phone calls. You've got to get out and look people in the eye and engage with them that way. And we as humans are designed for that. The human face has 200 muscles in it, and we're wired to read that feedback, and you can't get that out of an email or a Twitter feed. So it's really easy to do these days. I think there's just so many opportunities here in Atlanta where we work. You can go to a networking event every night. And where I work, I'm a little bit more particular about where I go and a little bit more, I would say, intentional. But if you're just starting out, you need to get out there and meet people who are in your area, and you'll find a very welcoming community. That's what I've found over the time.
Wonderful. So Dave, based on what's happening right now, how you're growing your empire right now in this economy,
Actually, I think we take a global view of things. So I don't really see geographic barriers when I'm looking at opportunities. In fact, I'm very attracted to global opportunities. We already work on a global basis because our software development teams are scattered around the world already. So, and I've traveled in those places quite frequently. And a new venture we're just now starting up is going to have a very global aspect to it. Half the business will be sourced in overseas, and that's deliberate because there's an opportunity to do that. So I think really sometimes you can be a little bit too narrow-minded about where you're working and have take a little bit of courage and look around you and engage with people outside the country. Actually, as an American or a U.S. citizen, you have a lot of clout in the world. People look up to the U.S. in a lot of ways. And I found in various kinds of businesses I've been involved in, when you're overseas, people are attracted to Americans, want to talk to you, want to have all kinds of talks with you, because in a lot of places I go, Americans are not frequently seen. So that's even better. Then I'm kind of a big fish in a small pond, which is a whole nother approach. But I would say, as using that global view means that I have the whole world to look for things. I'm not restricted to just Georgia or the Southeast or the US or even these time zones. I can work in Australia or Korea, the Middle East, Eastern Europe, Iceland if I wanted to. And I think plus for me, that's just a lot of fun. I love meeting people from other cultures, learning about history, geography, and things like that are just part of my, fun things to do. So so for me, it's like the perfect confluence of activities.
Wonderful. We are about to wrap up. Thank you. And is there anything I should have asked you and I didn't get around to it because you have diversified portfolio? We want rather capture everything, being a greedy person on knowledge.
I was happy to be here. I would say, if anyone's interested in or has tough software technology problems, we're here to help. We're also interested in interesting investment opportunities and also intellectual property opportunities as well. We have a lot of knowledge in that area.
Wonderful. As at a growth hacking show community, how we can support you? People who are watching this, how they can support you?
I love meeting interesting people and finding ways to help each other. So, I welcome LinkedIn connections. If you want to connect with me and chat or just meet sometime, happy to do that. And, we're always looking for new customers. Like I said, bring me some prospects. And we love doing affiliate and partnership deals as well. We do plenty of those. So we love channel partners. We like to work through others. We believe this is not a zero-sum game, that we can help each other and both parties can grow together. So I'm always on the outlook for that.
Wonderful, wonderful. So go ahead and connect with Dave Burnett from Atlanta. I'm in Swanee. He is in John Creek. If you're probably thinking how far, less than 5 minutes away from each other. And now we are meeting on a Zoom, and very soon we are going to meet on a coffee nearby. So
I look forward to that, Mohammed.
Dave, as we are about to wrap up, what would you say as a final word?
Well, as a final word, I would say that whatever you do, go have fun. It's just not worth being depressed or unhappy with what you're doing. And I can tell you that I'm having a lot of fun. There's ups and downs, but overall, I wouldn't change a thing about the way things have turned out last 40 years.
Thank you so much, Dave, for sharing your wisdom with us today on the behalf of Growth Hacking Show community and our entire team. We really appreciate you. This is Mohammed Siddique signing off from Atlanta, Georgia, wishing you good luck, good sales, and I do our path across again with another amazing guest. Until then, all best wishes.